Amen. You may be seated. Again, we'll be in the book of Proverbs this morning. You get to Proverbs 17, I believe, and 12. Just chapter 12 is where you'll start. And I'll catch up with you here in a second. There'll be a few extra verses. We're going to hop around Proverbs again because I believe I've told you before, Solomon comes and he writes this book, and he'll address one thing in a verse, and then several verses later he'll come back, he'll rejoin that thought, and he'll reinforce it, and he'll bring it back up, and maybe a chapter in our book, it'll be a chapter or two later, he'll reinforce it and reapply it to another application. So we'll find some of these, we'll apply them. We've talked about the wisdom, we've talked about our words. We're talking about our words today is what we've talked about anger before, but today we're going to focus on our words and how we use our words. Our words, this is kind of a continuation from last week, I believe, but our words have power. There are power in our words, and we're going to see how they can wound or how they can encourage other people. Now, if you have an iPhone or you're familiar with this, I don't know that the excitement or the enthusiasm is there with Samsung or BlackBerry or any of the other mobile devices that you have. But when Apple releases a new phone or maybe even a new iPad or something along those lines. When Apple releases their new phone especially, what do people do? They release one a year, I believe it is, the new version every year. And what do people do? They go to the store, they line up that night before. It's like a Black Friday. I don't know when they release it. I think they release the phones, in the fall, October-ish, November, something like that. But it's like a Black Friday at an Apple store. They'll line up, Nashville, large stores, large cities, they'll line up around the block, and you'll have a couple of hour wait just to get the new electronic device. Well, at 5 a.m., as this illustration goes here, at 5 a.m. in Austin, Texas, there was a couple of guys who were lined up at one of those Apple stores to get the new iPhone. And they had some other buddies that were with their party. They were in other stores in various locations, and they were all there to get that new release of the iPhone. They were purchasing the phone for an unusual reason. Their reason for purchasing the phone was not to necessarily have the latest electronic gadget or the most up-to-date camera or the most high-resolution screen or the most gigabyte capacity that the new phone offered or any other iOS newfangled idea that Apple had. Their reason for buying these phones was to take them back to a laboratory, tear them apart, inspect them, look at every screw, look at every component, look at every wire, and their reasoning for doing that was because there are all kinds of attorneys, legal attorneys, lawyers who are interested in knowing if there is any copyright infringement on a device that is made. So these guys will tear down these electronic parts, they will inspect them, they will label each electronic part, they will lay them out, they will label the screws, they will find out who the manufacturer was of the screws, of the components, of everything in there. They will set up a spreadsheet and they will figure out the cost, and they will see, is there any copyright infringement here? There are also other businesses that will pay money to have the information that these guys provide with those figures, with the listing of the components. So there's attorneys that were paying them to break this stuff down. There were other businesses that were paying for this information, and there were other businesses that wanted to know, can we make a screw just a half a cent cheaper and sell it to Apple and have all of that business? So there were various groups that wanted this information from this company. But do you know this company's name? This company's name is teardown.com. Over the last few years, they have taken thousands of electronic components, tore them down for research. The name of the business is teardown.com. Now, when you think of that, we, with our words, can tear people down. With our words, or an absence of words as well, can inflict pain on another person. And we're going to see that. We do. We tear down with our words. We don't necessarily, you don't go to the Apple store and buy a device and tear it down, but with our words, unfortunately, oftentimes, maybe even on a daily basis, we will tear something down. We live in a world that is constantly using words. That's how we communicate, and sometimes those words do tear or rip in to another person. Our God is a God of relationship. He's a God who has relationship and wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to have communication with you. So the way the world acts should never be the way that God's people act. Our words should be different from what the rest of the world uses. God used words in creation. And God said, "Let there be light." God used words to create. If we are to be an example after God, if we are to live after God, and God uses His words for good, He uses His words to create things, how are we using our words? The words that God used were to speak things into existence. Man is the only thing that He fashioned with His own hand. Our God is a triune God, and in that word triune, we see the three-figure Godhead. We see the Father, we see the Son, and we see the Holy Spirit. And we see through their relationship with the three of them, we see that they had a perfect fellowship. They had fellowship with one another. They had communication amongst themselves. We have record of that. They communicated with each other. God spoke to the populace, to the people, when Jesus was baptized. God spoke again to the disciples at the Mount of Transfiguration. He spoke when Jesus asked him to glorify His name. We were created to talk. How are we using our words? When we talk, how do we use our words? There are also, I mentioned as we started this, there are also the times when we don't use our words. What is something that they do to a prisoner? They'll put a prisoner in isolation. They'll put a prisoner in isolation so they cannot hear anything at all. They will be deprived of sound. They will be deprived of communication. They will be deprived of that really a life-giving resource activity to talk to somebody else. They do that so that that person will lose their mind. So at times, we may talk. At times, we may not talk at all. And we do it to inflict a pain on somebody else. Sometimes we don't talk to get back at somebody, to injure somebody else. We do it at work. Maybe we do it at school. School cliques. We might even do it at home. We give the silent treatment, right? The silent shoulder to somebody, we might say. But if we're giving the silent treatment or the silent shoulder to somebody, what is that? It's really because we're mad. And we want them to kind of feel the same pain that we feel at times. So at times we go silent. You've done it. You know when a coworker's walked in the room, you're upset with them. You and somebody else are having a conversation, and somebody else comes in to hearing range or eye shot range there, and they see what you're doing, and they want to come into the conversation. And what do? Just kind of turn away from them. You button your lip, turn away, walk off, end a conversation because you didn't want them around. It happens. It happens. But we are created to talk. We were created to speak to one another, and sometimes we use our words. Sometimes we isolate other people or we ostracize them, and that makes them feel helpless and worthless. Here's one of the things we see in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 17. Wisdom is to speak. The first thing here is truthfulness. In truthfulness, wisdom should speak. Verse 17, chapter 12. He who speaks truth tells what is right, but a false witness is deceit. So, here's the example for you, because I'm not real sure you're awake, so we'll see if you're paying attention here. Okay, your wife goes to the beauty shop, or wherever she gets her hair cut. And what does she do? She comes in, and she comes in from the beauty shop, and hopefully you're paying attention. Hopefully you're making a comment. Now don't look over there at your spouse right now. Just all eyes up here. All right? She comes in from the beauty shop, and she's got a new hairdo or something like that. And she says, what do you think about my hair? What do you think about my new haircut? What do you think about my new highlights or my new color or something like that? And you guys, you're thinking really deep down in your heart, you're thinking, well, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And you say that. And you say, well, he who speaks truth, tells truth, what is right, but a false witness. That's not what that means. That's not what that means. If she comes home with a shaved head, what are you supposed to say? That's fabulous. That's the best thing I've ever seen. That's what you say. Okay, you're picking up. Here's what he's saying here in verse 17. But he who speaks truth tells what is right. See, we want to speak truth. We want to tell what is true. But there's some common sense that we're supposed to use as well. There's some common sense to use to this. He says, speak truth. But he who speaks, he who breathes truth, tells what is right. A wise man, even in his breath, even in his breathing, is breathing truth. That's what that verse is getting at. A wise man, even under his breath, is breathing truth. Okay? The false witness, the deceit of that, the unwise person is the one who says, and you've heard this before, I'll just let the chips fall where they may. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to plow out there in it. I'm going to do what happens, and the chips will I'm going to say what I want to say, and I'll just let the chips fall where they may. That's the unwise person. But the wise person is breathing truth even under their breath. Proverbs 15, verse 2. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge acceptable, but the mouth of fools spouts folly. The tongue is to speak truth, and it's to speak it in the right way also. You can't build a relationship without truth. Without a foundation of truth, you have a very rocky relationship. Wisdom is also to speak in kindness. Verse 1 there. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. But today, when somebody gives a gentle answer today, when somebody is humble, when somebody is meek, when somebody responds in kindness to you, what do we think? Well, there's something up here. This is odd. When somebody responds that way in today's society, we think they're odd. something is wrong. Something they're up to something. They must be suspicious. Why do we do that? Because today's society, and often a lot of times us too, today we reflect what we see on TV. We reflect what we hear on the radio. We reflect any kind of Hollywood rhetoric or tone. And the example that we get from those outlets would be rudeness, harshness, crass, abrasive. They do that to get the job done. Business people may deal that way. They may be hard. They may be rash and coarse in their voice and in their tone. They do it. They say, I got to get the job done. So that's the way I must conduct business. That's the way I must talk to the underling, to the person under me, to whoever I'm dealing with. I must talk harsh to them to get the job done. And we've bought that. We have bought into that. And not only have we bought into it, we have brought it into our homes. We've brought it on the job site with us. We've brought it into the business world as well. Chapter 25 now. Chapter 25, verse 15. By forbearance. Now, what did 15:1 said? A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. We think a gentle answer is odd, it's suspicious, because the world operates in harshness. How do you respond? How do you answer somebody? How do you talk to somebody at work? How do you talk to your spouse? How do you talk to just whoever you meet? How do you talk to that person on the phone? How do you talk to that bill collector? How do you talk to the insurance company? Actually, I call the insurance company. That's almost like an excuse just to talk ugly to somebody. That's like a get-out-of-jail-free card right there, isn't it? You talk harsh to them, you're not going to get very far. I mean, they kind of control your life, really. Chapter 25, verse 15, you're already there. By forbearance, a ruler may be persuaded. By forbearance, by persistence, by staying with it, a ruler may be persuaded. And a soft tongue breaks the bone. So if a gentle answer turns away wrath, and a soft tongue breaks the bone, shouldn't we apply that to our life? Shouldn't that be our mode of communication? So how does that work? You can verbalize, you can attack, you can model what the world models, and you can inflict pain with your vocabulary. You'll win a lot of battles, but you're going to lose the war in the end. Let me give you a few examples. You're probably getting out early today, so you can stay with me, okay? I got a few examples of this to give you. We have on our row, well, not our row, but going to our house there is, and I've said this before, I'm sure I've said this with the Wednesday night people, we've got these 5 whoop-de-doos, just, you know how road departments are, you just got these jumps in them, these 5 jumps, and you almost have to come to a complete rolling, just have to roll through it gently, mess your car up. So we've got about 5 of those, and it just so happened I was coming back home. It was one afternoon. Matter of fact, I believe it was Wednesday after the lunch thing, and they were out there, like 1 o'clock or something, 2, I don't know when it was, but they were out there. They were in their trucks, and I thought, well, I need to stop and ask them, hey, are you here to fix the whoop-de-doos? Are you here to fix the craters? And they were in their vehicles. They were all in their vehicles. And so I go over there, I pull my truck up right beside one of them. I walk up, and I was going to knock on his window. He rolls the window down, and I said, hey, are y'all guys here to fix the road? And they said, no, we're just working on the shoulder. We're bringing in some dirt. We're just making it where if you run off the shoulder, you won't fall over into the ditch. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's nice too. I was just wondering about these dips here. And the guy sitting in the passenger seat. The guy sitting in the passenger seat, you know, the road department never gets anybody calling to say thanks for what you're doing, thanks for the work you did. They just get people to call and complain. I know what they do. I know what happens. Nobody says thank you for maintaining the road or getting the snow off of the road. It just doesn't happen for them. So the guy in the passenger seat, boy, his ears, his radar is up. He thinks I am there to gripe and moan and complain. And what does he do? He gets defensive. They're not going to fix those things until it settles in. Now, that's what they've been saying that for 2 years. Whenever it settles, whenever it gets done settling, we'll come back and fix it. And I said, oh, okay. I said, I know, I've called them before, and that's what they said. But it's been that way for 2 years. Do you think maybe we can do something else? And I went on to tell them, I said, well, you know, in Graves County, we've been pouring concrete over that stuff, and it's been lasting for a long time. And they said, well, that's the county, and this is the state right here. But what I'm saying is, I came with a nice voice. The passenger was getting, he had his antennas up. He was already throwing up a wall of defense. But as I continued with a soft tongue, do you know what he did? Shut up. He didn't say anything else. The guy in the driver's seat and me and him kept doing the talking. That other guy, he just sat back. He realized, I told him, I said, I'm not here, you know, to beat you up or to complain about anything. I just want to know if you're here to fix it, what can we do to get this thing fixed? Soft word breaks the bone. That's what happened. Speaking of insurance, there was a time when I left my job at Petter, and we had about a $600 insurance bill. Maybe I left on like a January the 30th, 31st, or whatever was my last day, and we had a bill. We had an office, an expense, an insurance expense. I'm going to say $600. Like that final week of my employment. You know how excited Petter was to get that bill as I was walking out the door for $600 that they owed? They didn't like it at all. Do you know how much they paid of it? Zero. Do you know how much they should have paid of it? They should have paid the whole amount. But what did Todd do? Todd had to talk to the insurance company for almost a year. I drug this out just on principle alone because I'm hard-headed sometimes. But I was nice to the insurance company. I was very nice to them. I said, hey, I paid my premium the whole time. I worked there 13 years. I paid my premium every month just like a good employee did. The insurance company said, you're right, sir. That the company should be paying that bill right there. And they would call Petter. Petter would say, we're not going to pay it. They would get me on the phone. I'd say, I shouldn't be paying it either. I paid my premium just like you asked me to do every month. You took it out of my check. It went straight to that for that purpose right there. Finally, after several months, you know, I was nice every time. Nice every time. Soft tongue breaks the bone. Eventually, got $300 out of Petter Supply. And they sent a note and said, this is all we will be paying. You pay the rest. You know what happened the next month when the insurance called and said I had another bill? I said, hey, let's call Petter again. I did it. I drug it out one more month, all for principle because I'm hard-headed. But I had a soft tongue every time. Insurance company knew I was right. Had a soft tongue. We need to have a soft tongue. We can get things done. You do not have to pick up the phone and cuss the road department out or cuss the utility company out or fuss and gripe at the satellite company because, you know, your service goes out when the rainstorm comes or things like that. You don't have to use a harsh, crass tongue to get something done. What did I say? You're going to win some battles, but you're going to lose the war in the end. Do not burn bridges. I'm trying to apply that to my life. I'm trying to see everybody that I come across, do not burn that bridge because I may just want to witness to them tomorrow. And if you've been a donkey's hind end, your witness is gone. That road department person you call and complain to, when you see them, or how about they see you stranded on the road and you need to have your tire changed? What'd you say your name was? See you later. They'll leave you there. Soft word breaks the bone. Proverbs chapter 10. Verse 32. The lips of the righteous bring forth what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked what is perverted. The lips of the righteous bring forth what is acceptable. The lips of the righteous bring forth delight. There should be some delight in what we say. Godly wisdom brings delight. Delight can come from how you say something. Delight in what you speak can come from when you say it. Do you say it at the right time? We have to talk to others to communicate with them. We need to have communication with other people. Back to Proverbs 25, verse 11. Like apples of gold in settings of silver is a word spoken in right circumstances. So there is a time when we are supposed to speak rightly. And that apples of gold in settings of silver talks about a craftsmanship, talks about a person making something worthwhile, making something wonderful. If you want to make something wonderful, there is a right time to speak truth into something. We have to have time to consider. There should be some consideration about what you're about to blurt out of your mouth. There should be some consideration. How will other people receive what I'm saying? Is the timing for what I'm saying, is it right? Is this the right time to say what I want? Here's the last thing. Wisdom speaks with discretion. Proverbs 10. Proverbs 10. Verse 19. Should be some discretion with their words. When there are many words, transgression is unavoidable. When there are many words, sin is not absent. But he who restrains his lips is wise. Now you just stay in Proverbs. I'm going to read Leviticus to you. Leviticus 19:16. You shall not go about as a slanderer, as a tale-bearer among your people. You shall not go out as a slanderer, as a talebearer. What did it say back in Proverbs? Where there are many words, transgression is unavoidable. When you are a slanderer, when you're a talebearer, when you have many words, when you just go on and talk and talk and talk and talk, you are eventually going to get to a point where you run somebody down because you talk and talk and talk. We're going to discuss that here in just a second. What happens? How come that comes out at times? If somebody is constantly going around talking, eventually at some point they're going to get to cross the road and they're going to run somebody down. Solomon says our words should be spoken with discretion, is what he's saying. He who restrains his lips is wise. Wisdom exercises little speak. Little speak. Guard your words. But when there's a lot of words, you're putting yourself in trouble. That's what Solomon's saying. See, our struggle is we really have no discipline with our mouth. Our mouth is undisciplined. Most everything we do is undisciplined. You're still in problem. Let me read Matthew to you. Matthew chapter 12, 33 through 35. This is the last verse. Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad, for the tree is known by its fruit. Now apply this to your character. You brought of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak what is good? For the mouth speaks out of that which fills the heart. The good man brings out of his good treasure what is good. Treasure your heart. And the evil man brings out of his evil treasure what is evil. So our words are going to reveal our character. Is what you're saying coming straight from the heart? That's what Matthew is saying. He's saying, your words are coming straight from your heart. Are you bringing a good treasure out? Or are you bringing an evil treasure out from your heart? What is your character? See, we have trouble with that discipline of our mouth, obviously. We have trouble with the discipline of our fingers on emails and updates and things like that. We just let things fly. We lack discipline. Our mouths just run. They just go on. They just talk, talk, talk. The discipline part is on us. But what can change? Our heart. Our heart can change. Our discipline, our discipline is weak. But what can change is our heart. How can our heart change? Jesus Christ changes the heart. When your heart changes, then what comes out of it will be different. You will bring good. Out of a changed heart, out of a heart changed by Jesus Christ, you will bring good treasure out of the heart. Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. You allow Jesus to change your heart, and your speech will become better. See, we can apply that. I'm going to brag on you for just a minute here. We had a really nice crowd last Sunday. A lot of people here. I think some seed was sown. Some of you even spoke this. Some of you even said some seed was sown and you applied it almost immediately to your life. You said, I saw the opportunity to not say something I wanted to say. And you didn't. See, you had a victory. And this week you can have a victory again. Jesus changed my heart so that the treasure that comes out of it can be good. A self-help book at Books A Million will not change your heart. Only Jesus changes the heart. I ask you to bow your head.